Video games are, without a doubt, my favorite kind of media. I love me a good movie or book or song, but video games are what I've invested the most time into. I have the strongest opinions on them. I collect them, for crying out loud. I admittedly haven't beaten as many games as I'd like, and there's many I've yet to even try out, but no matter how you slice it, I have indeed played many games. I've learned my taste, and I've realized something. A lot of the games I've played that I enjoyed, some of which I'd even call my favorites, their gameplay is not the first thing I think of when I recall why I enjoy them so much. Not that I remember them having bad gameplay or that I can't recall it at all, but the focal point in my mind isn't necessarily the gameplay, it'll be the story or the characters or the art style. And that's made me think, is gameplay actually the most important aspect of a video game? Now I know a lot of people will hear that and immediately think I'm being silly, so I want to make it clear, this video isn't at all me saying gameplay isn't important. These things are called video games after all, so you're going to want to make sure whatever you're making the player do at the very least is serviceable. Funny looking characters will only take you so far. Rather, I'm just here to ask a question and seek its answer, because I don't think it's as simple as yes or no, despite what a lot of people would say, so why not just jump right into the conversation? It's a shot in the dark, but I feel like part of why so many people would definitely say gameplay is what matters most, or even the only thing that matters, stems from older games where, all there really was to these things was the gameplay. You think of some of the most titular and iconic games of all time, like Pong, Super Mario Bros., and Tetris, and what made them so well known and beloved wasn't an engaging story or graphics, look at them. It was the simple yet undeniably well-crafted and fun gameplay. There's a reason these titles are re-released so much and or have so many different iterations. They were made to be absolutely timeless. Video games nowadays just have so much more stuff going on in them. They're able to contain more fluff in the form of, say, eye-catching gorgeous visuals or fun and unique characters, but their gameplay might not be anything too crazy or sometimes not really good at all. Many people don't like that because, again, these are video games. The gameplay should come first and foremost. A rebuttal one might have against that claim would be, well, are you saying all games should just be as absolute basic as possible? No exciting graphics or unique designs, just the bare minimum to get the gameplay across? But I feel like that's disingenuous to where the argument stems from. I don't think anyone who mainly cares about gameplay is trying to say all games should be void of personality. What they're saying is, you should not sacrifice a better or more fun user experience in the name of personality, or try to hide a mediocre game behind a layer of cool fluff, and those are sentiments I understand. I played Splatoon 2 a lot back in its heyday, but an aspect about it that I would see people complain about was the fact that whenever you booted the game up, you were forced to watch the off-the-hook newscast, which told you which stages were currently on for each mode. The first game did this too, and while it is a very minor thing and admittedly never really bothered me, it's objectively just silly. It's obvious a big part of Splatoon is its lore and it really wants you to be invested in its world, but at the end of the day, this is an online multiplayer focused series. If I'm opening up Splatoon, more than likely I just want to immediately jump into a match. I'll see what the maps are once I'm in the lobby, you know? And all that's why, in the next game, they gave you the ability to just skip the news and play it in the corner. It's a small improvement, but it's undeniably better. So yes, I understand people who say gameplay should be prioritized, but at the same time, while I know I just ragged on it, I feel like stuff like that is what makes Splatoon Splatoon. Do I skip the news every single time I open up Splatoon 3? Yes, but if they forced me to watch it like the first two games, I wouldn't mind because these characters and animations are cute. Even if after a good bit of playing I start seeing dialogue repeated in the same animations over and over, I still appreciate the work that went into it all. For another example, take going to a friend's island in Animal Crossing New Horizons. It can absolutely be irritating that you have to run all the way to your airport, go through all the dialogue with Orville, watch an entire cutscene of you coming into their airport, and only then do you have the privilege to play with your friend. But all of that is what makes Animal Crossing, you know? You know where you're getting into playing a game in this series, and if you don't want to deal with all of its little annoyances, well, there's plenty of other sandbox games that don't restrict you, such as Minecraft. To be fair though, none of that really shows how gameplay might not be the most important thing in games. It's kinda just me defending developer decisions that drive a lot of players crazy. So how about this? If you're gonna say gameplay is all that matters, you're kinda denouncing an entire genre of games, that being visual novels. The gameplay for most, if not all of these, is literally just reading text, clicking A, maybe making some in-game decisions, and that's about it. Do you think that makes these games bad? For some people, yeah. They don't like this type of stuff, and I'm not saying they have to, but if you're gonna call these games bad just because they don't abide by gameplay before anything else, I just feel like that's really one-dimensional. It's a view that sees games as purely entertainment rather than art. Video games are probably the most versatile media format out there, considering they're basically a mix of all other types of media. Why not embrace and support developers doing something different and making something from the heart? I feel like a lot of people already do without realizing. The Last of Us is one of the most critically acclaimed games of all time, and while it does have moments of extremely tense action-packed gameplay, a lot of it is also just walking. I'm willing to bet what kept a lot of people engaged wasn't necessarily the gameplay, it was the story, the characters, getting to that next cutscene, and there's plenty of games that are like that. Like, I recently started a playthrough of Horizon Forbidden West, and I don't know if I'm going to continue it anytime soon, because not only have I never played the first game, but more importantly, this gameplay is not my style. There's just so much to focus on. Pretty much every button on the controller is used in some capacity. The UI routinely is a lot for me to take in. There's all these different mechanics, and while I'm sure I'd get used to all of this as I play more, I would not describe my first hour in the game as fun. However, what makes me want to keep playing is the world and the story. This game is beyond gorgeous, and the story is so alluring to me despite coming into the second part. Every single cutscene, my eyes are glued to the screen. I want to know more about the main character Aloy and her story. Now, with both what I just talked about, and especially the visual novel games, plenty of people would say that these types of titles aren't taking advantage of the format they're in, and that, at that point, I'm just treating the game like a movie. I could get the exact same experience watching a compilation of all the cutscenes online. And that may be true for some people, but video games are a very personal experience to me. Yeah, every single person who's ever played this game experiences the exact same cutscenes, but I want the cutscenes I see to be part of my journey through the title. I want to know how we got from point A to B, and that journey is going to be different for each player. Like I said, video games are art, and art is an experience that goes beyond just entertainment. So long as I don't find the gameplay unbearably unfun, I don't mind playing through a game that put its resources into other aspects. The last thing I can think of for team gameplay is that a lot of games that don't prioritize their gameplay are one-hit wonders. There's no reason to ever play them again because you've already experienced all the title has to offer in terms of story, characters, and world. If the gameplay isn't much good, what's the point in playing it again? And hey, I understand this point too. I played through The Plucky Squire a little over a year ago and enjoyed it so much I made a whole video on it, yet I've never replayed a single part of the title. That's because this is definitely a game I never need to replay again. The gameplay is fine, but the main draw of it is the whole storybook element. It's exploring every nook and cranny of the desk the first time, seeing all the cutscenes, following the simple yet very charming plot. Once you've already experienced all that the first time, there's not much reason to do it all over again because there's no surprises anymore. It's not like rewatching your favorite scenes in a movie or TV show, because playing a game inherently takes a lot more deliberation and effort. So yeah, I don't have a desire to replay this game, but at the same time, who cares? I got plenty of fun and enjoyment out of it the first time, and that's good enough for me. Not every single game needs to have 100 hours worth of content and replayability. If anything, I'm delighted to have a game that's a one-time wonderful experience that I can shelve and periodically reminisce on. All that being said, I want to make it clear that while I'm doing a lot of defending for team gameplay isn't the most important thing, I still do love and play games where gameplay is the main focus. My two most played games of all time are Fortnite and Minecraft. These are games that do certainly have personality injected in them, but the reason I've invested thousands of hours into both is just because I think they're immensely fun. Their gameplay loop always manages to suck me back in, and that's the case for literally millions of other people too. Or for a more traditional game example, take any Mario Party. Again, these games certainly do have a good chunk of personality in them, but I didn't beat Mario Party DS's story mode 8 times because I just can't get enough of this game's plot. I did it because I love playing all the minigames and boards. And plus, I've definitely played games where the charm didn't outweigh the, in my opinion, mediocre gameplay. Bomb Rush Cyberpunk is definitely a game I need to play more before I form anything close to a full opinion, but I must say, while the style was definitely there, this gameplay was extremely uninteresting and just not fun to me. So at the end of the day, I feel like the answer of is gameplay the most important aspect of a video game just, it depends. There's so many different types of games and goals each developer has and preferences players are going to have, to where I don't think anyone can definitively say it always has to be the absolute first priority. There's plenty of games I like that honestly aren't anything too crazy in the gameplay department, but I love them for their character and charm. If you are still ride or die for the idea that gameplay is definitely most important, I'm not here to tell you how to think, but if nothing else, just remember games like Nintendo Switch Sports or the new Super Mario Bros. Series past Wii. These are games that certainly have well-constructed gameplay, I'd say. I have a fair bit of fun playing them, but there's such little spectacle or hook for them because they're just so boring. Yes, they may introduce unique gameplay mechanics or function better than their predecessors, but many people, myself included, denounce them because they're so iterative and void of life, especially a game like New Super Mario Bros. U. The reason so many people like Mario Wonder and don't like Mario U isn't because the gameplay is that much different between the games, it's because Mario Wonder had a new art style, introduced new characters, and was actually a breath of fresh air from all of this. Sure, the casual audience generally doesn't really care, and that's why these games sell so well, but a lot of other people do care about uniqueness in their games. But obviously, yes, it's important that the gameplay is actually good too. So to end off this discussion, here's a list of games I've played that I feel have a wonderful balance of excellent gameplay and substantial personality. I haven't beaten all these games, but even the ones I haven't, I can tell there's something truly special, and at the very least, I bet you anyone and everyone would probably enjoy at least one of the titles listed here. Starting with Omori, if you know, you know. I'm not too big on RPGs, but this is literally my favorite game of all time. The battle system is immaculate. Between just the standard gear and items you get throughout the world, each character's special moves that you learn as you level up, the follow-up moves that you can do, and the whole emotion system, pretty much every battle feels engaging and fun, and you'll want to get good at this battle system for later enemies, and especially the bosses. On top of all that, this game is extremely memorable and full of life. Every location you go to and explore feels substantial and lived in, which is helped by the incredible soundtrack, one of my favorites ever. All the characters are lovely, the visuals are expertly done, and all of this is without mentioning how this is one of the most beautiful stories ever told in gaming. An absolute must-play if you ask me. Pretty much any Rhythm Heaven game. To me, these games are the rhythm genre perfected. A lot of other rhythm games like Friday Night Funkin' or Osu revolve around responding to on-screen prompts, and while that's fun too, the way Rhythm Heaven works, with it being entirely audio cue based, makes it a lot more unique and accessible to me. I mean, you could play these games blind and nearly all of them would be just as possible. At its core, you're just pressing a button to the beat, but you're always engaged because you have to perform well enough to continue, and the minigames do get pretty tricky even if you're as experienced as I am. Not to mention, there's the whole perfect mechanic, which has probably contributed 90% of all my most stressful gaming moments, but it's incredibly rewarding when you're able to beat a stage that's been stumping you. Rhythm Heaven is also just insanely wacky. Pretty much every single minigame is memorable because there's always something stupid going on in them. And of course, this being a music-based series, there are plenty of amazing tunes found in each game. If I had to pick my favorite in the franchise, I'd go with Rhythm Heaven Fever, since that's where I think all of these elements are turned up to the max, but in general, you can't really go wrong with the Rhythm Heaven game. Astrobot, this was the Game of the Year winner for 2024, and if you've ever played it, you know why. Just the atmosphere and vibe of this game is so wonderful. I adore how it functions as a celebration of PlayStation's history, while also standing on its own as just a brilliantly designed game. This is truly 3D platforming perfected. There's never a dull moment or an element that feels not well thought out. The game makes great use of the PS5 controller's features. Even if it can be gimmicky, it's still enjoyable, and in general, honestly, these levels are some of the most fun I've ever had playing a video game. All of the music is very lively, the visuals, sound effects, everything is just so top-notch. If you have a PS5, this is a must-have title in your library. Deltarune. My love for this game is very similar to Omori, with it being a charismatic sprite-based RPG, and because of that, I basically have all the same praises. I've only played the first chapter so far, but boy, let me tell you, that was an incredible 3 hours. I think the writing in this game is actually better than Omori's. There were moments where I genuinely laughed out loud, and there are characters that are even more lovable than Omori's offerings. I do think Omori's gameplay is better though, but Deltarune's is still wonderful. I elected to be a pacifist, and you'd think that would make every battle boring or a nuisance, but no. Enemy attacks can be quite tricky to dodge, and since each baddie is pacified in a different way, no battle feels mindless. Not to mention, the battle music and OST in general is legendary. And ending things off, we have Celeste. This is another one I definitely need to play more, but what I have played is absolutely lovely. Celeste is one of the greatest 2D platformers of all time, and surrounding it you have some of the most gorgeous sprite work I've ever seen in a game, the beautiful and sweet story of Madeline as she overcomes her doubts about her trans identity, and once again, like these other games, some incredible music. It can be very tricky at times, but that's part of the fun. Like Rhythm Heaven, it makes things more satisfying and rewarding once you finally get past a difficult part, and it's never too daunting even for someone like me who's bad at video games. So there you have it. Once again, these are just my recommendations based on what I've actually played. At the end of the day, play whatever you want and hold whatever opinions you want, but at the very least, try to be a little open-minded. And if you are still a firm believer in gameplay being all that matters and you just want games to cut to the point, might I suggest Sudoku Gridmaster? Yeah, this is so much better!